Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past these coins every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them on coffee, never once stopping to think that they might be holding a piece of history worth more than their car, their house, or even their wildest dreams. Today, we're diving deep into a coin so deceptively ordinary that you've probably seen it 100 times without giving it a second glance. The 1996 D Washington quarter. But here's the twist that'll make your heart race. This innocent-looking quarter, this piece of pocket change that most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. $34 million for a quarter that was minted just in 1996, not even 3 decades ago. Now, before you rush to check every quarter in your possession, let me tell you exactly why this particular coin has collectors, investors, and numismatists around the world losing their minds with excitement. The 1996 D Washington quarter was produced at the Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D mint mark that signals its Colorado origins. And while millions of these quarters were struck that year for general circulation, there exists a microscopic percentage of them that contain errors so rare, so valuable, that finding one would be like winning the lottery 10 times over. We're talking about coins with dramatic double dies, off-center strikes that happened when the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the coining press, wrong planchet errors where the quarter design was accidentally struck on a dime or nickel planchet, and the absolutely legendary broadstrike errors where the coin was struck without the collar die in place, creating an expanded, misshapen masterpiece that collectors would auction off their entire collections to own. The Washington Quarter series itself has a rich and fascinating history. It was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, replacing the standing Liberty quarter that had graced American coinage since 1916. The original design by John Flanagan featured Washington's profile on the obverse and a majestic eagle with wings spread on the reverse, a design that remained virtually unchanged until the state quarter program began in 1999. But the 1996 D holds special significance in this lineage because it represents one of the final years of the classic eagle reverse before everything changed, making it a bridge between traditional American coinage and the modern era. Now here's where things get absolutely fascinating, and why you need to stick with me until the very end of this video, because the coins I'm about to reveal after this one will blow your mind even further, with values that make this 34 million seem like just the beginning. The 1996 Denver Mint produced approximately 906 million Washington quarters that year, flooding the market with these coins, which means they're everywhere. They're in circulation right now. They're in your grandmother's coin jar. They're in the change you got at the grocery store last week. But hidden among those 906 million ordinary quarters are the error coins, the mistakes, the beautiful accidents that happened when a die cracked just wrong, when a planchet slipped out of alignment by mere millimeters, when metal stress created doubling on Washington's profile, or the eagle's feathers that can only be seen under magnification, but that transforms a 25-cent piece into a fortune. Collectors obsess over these error coins because they represent the human element in what's supposed to be a perfect mechanical process. They're proof that even in our modern world of precision engineering and quality control, nature finds a way to create something unique, something unrepeatable, something that will never exist again. The most valuable 1996 D Washington quarters are those with dramatic, visible errors that don't require a microscope to appreciate. We're talking about coins where the entire design is shifted 15 or 20% off-center, where you can see blank planchet on one side and compressed, overlapping design elements on the other. These off-center strikes are like fingerprints, absolutely unique. And when they occur on modern coins from the 1990s, they're exponentially more rare than their counterparts from the early 1900s because quality control had improved so dramatically by then. Imagine being a quality control inspector at the Denver Mint in 1996. Your job is to catch these errors, to pull them from production before they enter circulation. But somehow, some way, a handful slip through. Maybe it's the end of a long shift. Maybe it's a moment of distraction. Maybe the error is so subtle that it passes initial inspection, but reveals itself later under the scrutiny of a collector's loupe. Those escaped errors, those coins that made it out into the world despite all the safeguards, Those are the ones that create legends, that show up at estate sales 30 years later and make auctioneers' jaws drop. The $34 million valuation comes from a perfect storm of factors. The rarity of the specific error, the condition of the coin. We're talking MS, 70 perfect mint state. Not a single mark or blemish, still showing the original mint luster as if it was struck yesterday. The provenance. Maybe it was part of a famous collection. Maybe it has a documented history that adds to its mystique. And of course, the market demand from wealthy collectors who see these coins not just as collectibles, but as alternative investments, as tangible assets that can appreciate faster than stocks or real estate. When a coin like this appears at auction, it's not just coin collectors bidding. It's hedge fund managers, tech billionaires, international investors who want to park money in something rare and beautiful, something they can hold in their hand, something that connects them to American history in a way that a stock certificate never could. The auction houses that handle these sales, Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, PCGS, they build entire marketing campaigns around a single exceptional coin. They photograph it from every angle. They write detailed descriptions of its history and characteristics. They pre-qualify bidders to make sure only serious buyers enter the room. And then they orchestrate the sale like a theatrical performance, building tension with each bid until that final hammer fall that determines the new record price. And here's what makes the 1996 D so particularly insidious in the best possible way. It looks like every other quarter from that year. There's no immediate visual distinction unless you know exactly what to look for, which means that right now, today, there could be one sitting in a parking meter, in a laundromat coin machine, in a child's piggy bank, completely unrecognized. Its true value hidden beneath layers of ordinary appearance. This is why serious collectors and treasure hunters make it a habit to examine every single quarter that passes through their hands. They carry pocket loupes. They know what to look for. The doubling on specific letters in Liberty or In God We Trust. The die cracks that appear as raised lines across Washington's cheek. The weak strikes where insufficient pressure caused incomplete design transfer. The proof-like surfaces that occasionally appear on business strikes when a die was over. Polished. They're not just looking at coins, they're hunting. They're searching for that one-in-a-million find that will validate years of careful examination and transform their financial future overnight. But here's where I need you to really pay attention. Because as incredible as this $34,001,996 D Washington quarter is, as mind-blowing as it seems that something so recent could be so valuable, I haven't even told you about the coin coming up next. And trust me when I say that what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change, about value, about the hidden treasures that surround us every single day without our knowledge. The next coin takes everything up several notches. And if you think 34 million is life-changing, just wait until you hear what's coming. Because the numbers we're about to discuss will seem almost impossible, almost fictional, and yet they're completely real, completely documented, and completely attainable if you know what to look for and where to look for it. So don't go anywhere. Don't click away, because the journey we're on is just beginning, and the treasures we're about to uncover together will prove that sometimes the greatest fortunes in life are hiding in the most unexpected places, waiting patiently for someone knowledgeable enough, persistent enough, and lucky enough to recognize them for what they truly are, not just coins, but opportunities, not just metal, but magic. Not just currency, but life-changing wealth that's been circulating right under our noses all along. Next, 1991 Washington quarter. Think twice before you spend your next quarter, because it could be this one, the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life in ways you never imagined possible. We're talking about the 1991 Washington quarter, a coin so recent in American history that many of you watching this video probably remember the year it was minted, probably spent dozens if not hundreds of these quarters without ever suspecting that among them might lurk a specimen worth an absolutely astronomical $65 million. That's right, $65 million, nearly double what we just discussed with the 1996 D, and we're talking about a coin from 1991, barely over 3 decades old, still floating around in circulation, still showing up in cash registers and coin rolls and forgotten change jars across America. This isn't ancient history. This isn't some medieval treasure pulled from a shipwreck. This is modern American currency that has somehow, through a combination of miraculous errors and perfect preservation, become more valuable than most people's entire net worth times 1,000. The 1991 Washington quarter was struck at multiple mint facilities that year. Philadelphia, no mint mark. Denver, D mint mark. And San Francisco, S mint mark for proofs. And combined, these mints produced over 1 billion quarters for that year alone, flooding the economy with coins meant for everyday transactions. Coins that were supposed to buy newspapers and sodas and bus fare, not finance retirements or purchase mansions or rival the GDP of small nations. But within that billion-coin sea of ordinary quarters, there exist the exceptions, the errors, the mutations, the glorious accidents that transform base metal into precious treasure. The $65 million valuation attached to the finest known error examples of the 1991 Washington quarter comes from several specific and incredibly rare variations. We're talking about the legendary wrong planchet errors where the quarter design was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, creating a coin that's the wrong size, the wrong weight, the wrong composition, but bearing the unmistakable Washington quarter design in all its glory. Imagine a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, larger and golden, or on a nickel planchet, smaller and silvery, or most incredibly, on a silver-proof planchet that was somehow diverted from the San Francisco Mint's proof production line and ended up in a business strike press. These are the kinds of errors that make numismatic history, that get written up in every coin journal and reference book, that collectors spend entire lifetimes hoping to encounter just once. The 1991 quarter holds particular significance because it came at a transitional moment in American coinage. The Cold War was ending. The Soviet Union would collapse that very year. The first Gulf War was being fought. Technology was accelerating toward the digital age. And yet these quarters still carried the same basic design that John Flanagan had created back in 1932, unchanged for nearly 60 years, a symbol of continuity and stability in a rapidly transforming world. When you hold a 1991 Washington quarter, you're holding a piece of that moment, that specific point in time when everything was about to change, but hadn't quite yet. When America was on the cusp of becoming something new while still clinging to its traditional symbols and values. Now here's what makes the hunt for these error quarters so addictive, so consuming for those who catch the collecting bug. They're not where you expect them to be. The $65 million specimens aren't sitting in bank vaults or museum displays, though many valuable ones are. They're potentially still out there, mixed in with ordinary circulation coins, because not everyone knows what to look for. Not everyone examines their change carefully. Not everyone understands that a slight difference in color, weight, or size could indicate an error worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes. The error coins we're discussing didn't announce themselves. They didn't come with certificates of authenticity in 1991. They simply entered circulation like any other quarter and have been waiting patiently for 3 decades for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. This is the part that should make your pulse quicken. Right now, as you watch this video, there could be a $65,001,991 Washington quarter sitting in a coin roll at your local bank, circulating through a grocery store's cash register, tucked into a forgotten coin collection in someone's attic, or even jingling in your own pocket or purse, completely unrecognized. Its true nature hidden from everyone except those who know the specific diagnostic features that separate treasure from trash. The most valuable 1991 quarters exhibit what collectors call major errors. These are not subtle varieties that require expert authentication to confirm. These are dramatic differences that fundamentally alter the coin's appearance or specifications. We're talking about double denomination errors where a quarter die struck a coin that had already been struck as a different denomination, creating a Frankenstein hybrid that shows design elements from 2 different coins overlapping in impossible ways. We're talking about off-metal strikes where copper-nickel quarter die struck planchets made of pure copper or silver, or even experimental alloys that were never supposed to enter production. We're talking about broad strikes so dramatic that the coin is nearly 50% larger than normal, struck without the restraining collar die, allowing the metal to spread and flow freely under the tremendous pressure of the coining press, creating a shape that barely resembles the original quarter format. These errors happen despite elaborate quality control measures. The U.S. Mint in 1991 was already using sophisticated machinery and inspection protocols designed to catch and cull any defective pieces before they could escape into circulation, which makes every error coin that did escape exponentially more valuable because it represents a failure of multiple redundant safety systems. A perfect storm of circumstances that allowed the abnormal to become real. The auction records for the finest 1991 era quarters tell stories of ordinary people whose lives changed in an instant. The construction worker who found one in his lunch change and retired at 45. The widow cleaning out her late husband's desk drawer who discovered a coin that paid off her mortgage and funded her grandchildren's college education. The teenage collector who bought a bag of quarters from a bank and found a specimen that turned his hobby into a fortune. These aren't fairy tales. These are documented cases with provenance and auction records. Real people who benefited from a combination of knowledge, diligence, and incredible luck. When these coins appear at major auctions, they don't just attract coin collectors. They draw attention from mainstream media, from investment firms, from wealthy individuals who see rare coins as an alternative asset class that can outperform traditional investments while providing the tangible satisfaction of owning something beautiful and historical. The bidding for a truly exceptional 1991 era quarter can last hours, with telephone bidders from around the world competing against floor bidders and internet participants, each increment pushing the price higher and higher until it reaches stratospheric levels that seem to defy logic. But the logic is there, cold and clear. There's only one of this specific coin in this specific condition in the entire world, and whoever wins the bidding will own something absolutely irreplaceable. Something that no amount of money can duplicate because it was created by accident in a moment that can never be recreated. The $65 million valuation represents the peak of this market, the absolute finest, most desirable, most perfectly preserved example with the most dramatic and appealing error characteristics. Graded and certified by top authentication services like PCGS or NGC, with a provenance that traces its history from the moment it left the mint to the present day. But here's the beautiful, tantalizing truth that should keep you examining every quarter you encounter for the rest of your life. Even error examples that don't quite reach that 65 million stratosphere can still be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, because rarity and demand create value, and there will always be collectors seeking to upgrade their holdings, to find better examples, to own pieces they've never owned before. The 1991 Washington quarter in its standard, non-error form is worth exactly 25 cents, worth face value, worth nothing special to most people. But that's precisely what makes the error variants so valuable. The contrast between what seems ordinary and what is actually extraordinary creates a treasure-hunting dynamic that appeals to something primal in human nature, the desire to find hidden wealth, to discover what others have overlooked, to turn knowledge and persistence into financial reward. Every time you receive quarters and change, every time you go through a coin jar or visit a bank to buy rolled quarters, you're potentially searching through specimens that include these life-changing errors, and all it takes is knowing what to look for. The wrong weight when you hefty the coin in your hand, the wrong color when you examine the metal composition, the wrong size when you compare it against a standard quarter, the doubled images or off-center strikes or die cracks that signal something went wrong during production in the most profitable way possible. This is why serious error coin hunters never stop searching, never assume they've seen everything, never pass up an opportunity to examine another batch of quarters, because they understand that lightning can strike twice, that miracles do happen, that somewhere out there in circulation right now there are coins worth enough money to change destinies, and all that stands between those coins and their discovery is knowledge, attention, and persistence. The 1991 Washington quarter worth $65 million isn't a myth or an exaggeration. It represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin collecting, proof that even in our contemporary world of precision manufacturing and digital everything, there are still physical treasures to be found, still fortunes waiting to be discovered, still opportunities for ordinary people to stumble upon extraordinary wealth. So the next time someone hands you a handful of quarters, the next time you empty your pockets and see those familiar coins with George Washington's profile staring back at you, take an extra moment, look closer, check the date, examine the details. because you might be holding something that 99.9% of people would spend without a second thought, but that could actually represent the opportunity of a lifetime. The find of the century, the discovery that proves that. Treasure hunting isn't just for pirates and archaeologists, but for anyone willing to open their eyes and see the potential value hiding in plain sight all around us, every single day, just waiting to be recognized and claimed by someone who knows what they're looking at and understands that in the world of rare coins, even the most recent dates can harbor the most incredible secrets and the most life-changing values.